The clash of civilizations, Greece versus Persia. For nearly half a century, the mighty Persian Empire waged war against the fiercely independent Greek city-states. From the legendary Battle of Marathon, to the heroic last stand at Thermopylae, and the naval triumph at Salamis, the Greco-Persian Wars shaped the course of Western history. But how did a small, divided Greece manage to resist the world's greatest superpower? Join us as we unravel the epic struggle that defined an era. One of the most inspirational events in European history, still, is the titanic struggle between Greece and Persia, involving a few kingdoms in mainland Greece and the Persian Empire at its height. Led by Artaphernes, the Greeks had better body armor, weaponry, tactics, and discipline than the Persians. Characterized by cowardice, self-interest, devious double-dealing, and political infighting between cities and groups within those cities, the Greek accomplishment of democratic institutions in city-states stands out as an unfathomable marvel. Built within one generation, the Persian Empire endured under the same reigning dynasty for more than 200 years. Rising to the throne of Anshan in 559, Cyrus, son of Cambyses, brought together many Parsa tribes to establish a new Achaemenid capital. Along with claiming all of Media's satellite dependencies including Mesopotamia, Syria, Armenia, and Cappadocia, he subdued Astyages. With two of his satraps comprising Greek people, Lydia and Phrygia, Cyrus split the empire into about 20 provinces under viceroys. Originally mostly disregarded by the city-states of mainland Greece, the events that changed the balance of power in the Near East for ages were first. Mutual ignorance and disdain defined Greco-Persian interactions. Each culture had a strong mistrust of the other. This mistrust resulted in a large-scale battle that shook Darius and Xerxes' kingdom to its very basis. The anecdote by Herodotus emphasizes the mutual stupidity of Greek and Persian societies. Ionian towns begged Sparta, which had just become the strongest military state in the Peloponnese, for aid after Cyrus approved Croesus's pact with Miltiades. Cyrus hated the Greek polis administration and the free flow of ideas among the Greeks, as they constituted the poorest foundation for any type of coordinated action. Although Darius, the great king of Greece, started large-scale financial and budgetary changes, including the creation of an official gold and silver currency, his approach toward credit, tribute, and capital movement within the empire was not improved. In Ionia, where he taxed the Greek towns, heavily limited free commerce with the Black Sea and insisted on their political structure, his short-sighted avarice had devastating results. Popular hero Miltiades of Athens was hailed for his generalship, insight, and bravery. But the Battle of Marathon changed Themistocles, a well-known Athenian, and started him to shun society. Miltiades was overdone as dangerously incorrect, which created a false impression of security. Plans for a fresh expedition started during Darius's son Xerxes' rule, as Themistocles thought a first-class combat fleet would be essential to offset the Persian threat. Miltiades was removed from the assembly and approved a force of 70 ships to exact reprisals on the islands that had supported the barbarians. He suffered a gangrene in his leg, nevertheless, and failed to break Paros's defenses. Aristides was chosen chief archon in the yearly elections for 489. Pericles' father, Xanthippus, joined the board of generals. Miltiades was finally sentenced to pay a fine of 50 talents after being convicted on accusations of cheating the public. Shortly after, he passed away, which made his opponents rather dubious. Athens' politics was erratic, and the city lacked time to create and equip a sufficient defense army. Though various basic issues had to be addressed, Themistocles had intentions to face this crisis. Marathon was a political tactic used by Themistocles and associates to overthrow Persia and guarantee ongoing government. Handling administration, finance, foreign policy, and the armed forces, the board of generals was turned into a potent tool of governance. Themistocles kept becoming more and more popular and powerful in spite of their initiatives. Athens battled finances throughout the decade between the First and Second Persian invasions. It lacked a contemporary national budget. Chosen as Darius's successor, Xerxes was a brilliant military commander, religious reformer, and arts patron. Marathon was a convoluted scheme hatched by great King Xerxes of Persia to seize Greece. It required thorough staff planning and great preparedness. Athens started to get concerning reports by 484-3, which caused Xerxes to strengthen his father's intentions for a large-scale invasion army. By building an advanced fleet in the Dardanelles and constructing a canal across the peninsula, he saved time and avoided damage from unplanned storms. Before he arrived, Xerxes also planned to shock the Greeks with horror. In the Maronea area of Laurium, close to Cape Sunium, a miracle happened during the winter of 484-3. Since ancient times, the Athenians have worked on silver mines, providing Athens with the only possible economic boon devoid of geographical growth. Sharp operator Themistocles kept regular contact with the mining community and highlighted a rich mine of silver. On the matter, however, there was a split of view. Some wanted mining revenues shared among the adult citizen body, while others disagreed. Marathon was a political conflict between Themistocles and Aristides, both champions of Athens' independence. With his sizable fleet of ships, Themistocles initially had about 250 ships at the start of the war. Breaking Aegena's trade monopoly, the Laurium strike made Athens' defense feasible and inundated the market with first-class Athenian money. Though some argue that the Persian command structure ran on the decimal system, the size and makeup of the Persian army during Xerxes' invasion of Greece remain hotly contested. Emphasizing the Greek navy, the book addresses the magnitude and might of Xerxes' fleet. Aeschylus projects 1,207 ships overall, but this is too high for the real force that fought at Artemisium and Salamis. Most recent researchers believe that during the time of Artemisium, Xerxes' fleet included between 800 Monroe and 600, Tarn, Hinnet and others, and maybe 450 plus at Salamis. From Xerxes himself, who thought the Greeks would affect their choice by some well-timed propaganda, the Greeks and Herodotus acquired knowledge regarding Xerxes' army. The book also advises searching for almost 600 lost ships, as they have stayed unseen by being taken for granted. For their tour of inspection, Xerxes had a large, vibrant host guiding the 3 Greek spies. Xerxes proudly displayed his 10,000 immortals, who were all Persians, Medes, or Elamites, resplendent in their gold-woven raiment. The imperial fleet supplied by historically coastal countries from the eastern Mediterranean posed an actual threat. Xerxes left 481 ready for a catastrophe headed into Europe. Given the momentous upheavals of Egypt, Cyprus, and Ionia still fresh in memory, the fleet's allegiance to the Achaemenid government was very vital. Different answers delivered to Athens, Crete, Argos, and maybe Sparta in 481 allow one to conclude the Delphic oracle's opinions about Greece's prospects at this juncture. March 480 saw the Persian High Command finish the double bridge of boats over the Dardanelles and the ship canal across the Athos Peninsula. Though contemporary military historians support these initiatives as evidence of Persian High Command's commitment to building a fleet of boats for quick army mobility, ancient authors objected to them as models of Xerxes' megalomania. Xerxes killed the engineers in charge and poured his anger on the Hellespont itself after the first bridges were demolished by a storm. Macedonian builder Harpalus bound the bow onto the stream by lashing great numbers of triremes and 50-oared galleys together. 2 specially made anchors kept each boat in place, and both sites provided great landing places. Beginning on the 1st of May, Xerxes' 10,000 immortals wore wreaths as they crossed. The royal household was securely over and en route for their first major gathering place, Doriscus, on the river Hebrus in Thrace by May 12th. By May 22nd, the whole invading force, including the fleet, had arrived at Doriscus. Leaving the devoted Mascames behind as governor of Doriscus, the Greek military advisor went forth on a protracted march into Thrace and Macedonia. Themistocles maintained the Piraeus shipwrights and overhauled antiquated triremes while the Congress of the Hellenic League reassembled in Corinth in April. Driven by ambition and money, Gelon of Syracuse, a powerful Greek-speaking monarch, kept distance from the mainland's fight against Xerxes. Although he suggested that Sparta and Athens should command either fleet or army, the diplomats rejected his idea. Themistocles advised the League to focus its efforts on creating a land-based defense line, Yet, the League erred in supposing that the delegation represented Thessaly at any level for a unified war group. Faced with the worst and reluctant to give up early, the Greeks marched north to Tempe, a strategically significant port on the Gulf of Pagasai. At least 2 negotiable passages west of the Olympus mountain were found. These would call for guerrilla tactics. Macedon's King Alexander I persuaded the Greeks that, while they still had time, their current situation was intolerable, and they should leave. In mid-June, Xerxes' fleet and troops left Dariscus for the Otho ship canal. Conscripting local tribesmen for service and hostages at every village they passed, they split their column into 3 distinct corps, and headed westward. Xerxes gathered volunteers and gave the king meals during the march through Thrace. When Xerxes arrived at Acanthus, he declared friendliness to the people, but his relative Artaxias died suddenly. At Acanthus, the army and navy split out for a while with a coastal rendezvous set at Therma. Xerxes was planning his push into hostile territory and waiting for the return of his numerous emissaries from Greece, with comprehensive knowledge on which city-states were willing to cooperate, thus having a long stop at Therma, had several solid reasons. After his visit to Tempe, Xerxes swiftly and decisively dispatched 1/3 of his land soldiers into Macedonia's highlands to extend the ancient woodland road to the Valistana Pass. Northern Greece had given in without a blow, and he sailed back to base headquarters in Therma in a jubilant mood. Athens sent the biggest force when the Greek navy headed for Artemisium in late July. The Peloponnesian states paid 100 triremes, Argolid 13, and islands 11. Marching north toward the isthmus with 4,000 soldiers, Leonidas marched. The Peloponnesian states sought to inspire central Greece to wage a holding operation at Thermopylae with steadfastness until reinforcements came. Tension erupted on August 12 as Themistocles' fleet came into contact with the enemy. From Therma, Xerxes marched in 2 or 3 columns, splitting his army to avoid traffic. Before dawn, the Greeks expected an assault from the open sea. Instead, the Phoenician galleys stopped them south of the Magnesian point. 3 of the chasing triremes were taken by the Phoenicians, therefore guaranteeing a Greek triumph. Carthage's alliance with Xerxes brought assault in Sicily into line, and Hamilcar commanded a strong army. Thousands of captives were netted as Galan's army organized and attacked Carthaginians. A Meltemi started a 3-day storm on August 13th, which resulted in the Persian navy losing over 1/3 of their total count. Leonidas sent back an emergency demand for quick reinforcements after rejecting any advice of retreat. At Artemisium, the Persian navy under Xerxes encountered a storm that momentarily silenced the Greeks. Still, they managed to flee and launch their boats, traveling south around Cape Sepias to reach their new naval base at Aphidi. From the south, Xerxes sent a task force of 200 vessels into the Euripus to reach Chalcis. The Persian fleet most likely exceeded the Greek by around 5-3, even with significant casualties. The Greeks chose to remain at Artemisium until after midnight and then set out across the sea to confront the Persians. The Medes fiercely battled the Spartan shield wall in August, but they would not give up. Xerxes launched his second attack on the Hot Gates on August 19th, rewarding the storming of the pass and punishing breaking ranks and fleeing. Moving into Aphidi from their many anchorages around the coast was the Greek fleet, which included Cilicians, Egyptians, Phoenicians, Greeks from Ionia and Caria, and the Hellespont. Control of the Euboea Channel, which Leonidas's army was defending, was the major source of conflict. After Leonidas was defeated, Themistocles took charge and told the Greek ships to quietly leave at night and attack the island's livestock. A person from Histiaea sailed to Aphatay to deliver the news about Greece pulling out, hoping to get fair treatment for his city. The Persians didn't believe him at first, but they held him and sent a team to check what was going on at Artemisium. They went west to Histiaea and took control of it. A royal messenger from Xerxes' offices arrived, and the whole group was gathered to hear the great king's message. On August 23rd, the main army of Thessaly started moving from Thermopylae into central Greece. They sent a group ahead to take control of Athens and Phaleron. Xerxes' intelligence officers learned about the flight of Attica and told the fleet to wait until the 26th to move forward. News of Thermopylae arrived in Athens on August 22nd, leading to fear and the departure of many people. Themistocles and his ships reached Phaleron Bay soon after the League made its choice, thinking that the League would make a move that would hurt its own cause. During the Persian attack of Athens, many people hid in the woods. Xerxes' troops captured about 500 of them as they moved through Attica. The fleet gathered in the 3 eastern bays of Salamis was bigger than it was at the Battle of Artemisium. The council mostly agreed to sail to the isthmus and fight to protect the Peloponnese. Themistocles had to tackle many difficulties to push through the isthmus line, such as keeping the Greek navy under control and making sure his ground troops were safe from enemy attacks. As fall came, military operations had to stop, setting a deadline for quick action. On September 17th, Xerxes started his new plan, causing whispers and worried talks among the Greek camp. The Battle of Salamis was a well-planned operation that included 4 skilled groups of ships, including the Egyptians. Their job was to stop the Megara waterway, protect the exits and narrow sea areas, and watch the southern coast. The Persian navy, led by Xerxes, moved forward to attack Psytalaia, which is a mile-wide area between Parama and the Cynosura Peninsula. Xerxes and the Persian leaders understood they had lost before the Greeks did, likely because the wind blew away their damaged ships and Themistocles tricked them. The leaders in charge, who were mostly Spartans, believed it was best to make the Persian army leave Europe quickly. Eurybiades wanted to block their escape and make them feel hopeless. Xerxes had no choice but to quickly pull his entire army out of Greece to avoid more fighting. The king of Greece couldn't accept that his Greek campaign had mostly failed, so he chose to leave some troops in Greece after the Battle of Salamis. On September 22nd, the Greeks woke up to see Xerxes' troops camped on the other side, which meant the fleet would be at Phaleron. Themistocles understood that Xerxes would have to take most of his army out of Greece eventually, so he came up with a trick to make Xerxes leave Europe faster. The Peloponnesian group shifted to mostly using ships for their mission, which the Spartans did not support. The Athenians quickly changed their approach, falling behind the traditional alliance of farmers and wealthy landowners led by Aristides. Themistocles, a well-known Greek military leader, did not realize that the situation around him had changed a lot because of new political developments. In October 479, Xerxes moved his troops back to the Dardanelles, moving from Thessaly to the towns of Sestos and Abydos. Even after losing battles, Xerxes stayed loyal to the great king, and set up Persian troops along his path. Artabazus, a member of Xerxes' original army, took steps to fight against the rebels by stopping the Pallene Isthmus and laying siege to Olynthus. Mardonius tried to win over towns that usually disliked Sparta by using gifts and talking to them nicely. Mardonius talked to Xerxes about several ideas, including forgiving Athens for its past attacks on Persia, allowing them to run themselves, and making Athens the main power in Greece. However, Mardonius knew that offering Athens such rights would cause an explosion among Persia's current Greek friends, so he sent a secret spy to consult major oracles in central Greece. The Athenians, led by Mardonius, tried to convince their Spartan friends to make a peace deal with Persia. News of Alexander's trip to Sparta scared people in Athens, prompting both sides to speak formally to the assembly. Alexander highlighted that Persia had endless resources and pointed out that it was a significant honor for the great king to give special attention to Athens among all the Greek city-states. In 479, Athens had something to use in negotiations with the Spartans because Xerxes' ships were prepared to fight, and many Iranian soldiers were joining them at the naval base on Samos. Pausanias took sacrificial omens at the isthmus under Mardonius's direction, which bred mistrust and conflict between Athens and the Peloponnesian bloc. This produced the renowned Oath of Plataea, sworn by every league member before Pausanias led them over the Boeotian border to fight with Mardonius. Led by Pausanias, the Greek army crossed level open territory and ascended the Cithaeron mountains as it headed north from Eleusis on the way to Thebes. Mardonius, initially uncertain about his response, surprised his opponent by retreating beyond the Cithaeron-Parnes line. Delphi responded to Aristides' visit that the Athenians would defeat their enemies under conditions wherein they risked a war on their own soil, in the plain of the Eleusinian deities, Demeter and Kore. Pausanias trailed the Persians, who had little hope of a successful home return. They resolved to act aggressively, designating Erythrae as Katsula, protecting the Giftocastro Pass, and using modern Villa to cross from Plataea to Eleutherai. General Mecistius of the Persian cavalry tried a massed frontal assault on Greek strongholds in Thebes, but his supply problem became increasingly severe. Having not only kept Mardonius's cavalry off but also driven them to flee and slain him, the Greeks were ecstatic. Pausanias moved the Greek center of gravity westward from Erythrae towards Plataea, therefore providing a more plentiful water supply by deploying his soldiers in a more advanced posture. During the Battle of the Aegean, Mardonius and Pausanias had to decide on their approach. Though they had the same goals and benefits in terms of manpower and geography, they were resolved to maximize them to secure a triumph. In this psychological fight, Pausanias had the edge as he could postpone endlessly and was less in a hurry. With some claiming King Alexander of Macedon had a keen sense of which side would prevail in the long run, but feared not to trust his judgment too far, he was instrumental in the nighttime double-dealing. Short notice required the initial battle plan to be cancelled, hence ad hoc improvisation had to take place. Mardonius and his Persian horse archers reached a stalemate on both sides of the river, prompting him to propose a strategy in which the Greeks would retreat to Plataea and regroup on the island. Pausanias' fresh approach would extract the Greek army from its dangerously exposed posture and entice Mardonius into risking a general combat on a limited front, therefore being more reasonable than what Herodotus advises. Pausanias only retreated after he gave orders for the Athenians to close up near the Spartan position. Pausanias urgently appealed to the Athenians to close on their left flank using a tactic akin to Leonidas' triumph at Thermopylae. Pausanias and Mardonius fight the last enemy. Spartan hoplites advance on Mardonius' army and archers. Mardonius fell, and the war concluded with his death. Artabazus arrived in Byzantium last after marching westward into Phocis, Thessaly, and Thrace. Driving Mardonius' right wing back over the Asopus, the Spartans and Tegeans encountered an unanticipated barrier. Quickly manning the guard towers, the Persians sought cover within their military stockade, closing the main gates against their assailants. Under Pausanias, the Greek army announced their plan to hunt Artabazus into Thessaly. However, the Spartans rejected this idea and sentenced all top officials engaged to exile. Mardonius' corpse disappeared without explanation, and the Greeks instituted the Eleutheria, a new pan-Hellenic celebration to mark Greece's last escape at Plataea every 4 years. Though peace would only be approved 30 years hence, the battle with Persia was not yet done. Leonidas' navy moored in Samos' eastern harbor, the Phoenicians ready for combat or siege on their little beach. Leonidas chose to assault the opposing stockade, which resulted in the victory at Mycale and Plataea, and brought further challenges and obligations, especially in safeguarding the recently freed towns of Ionia. The Greco-Persian Wars were more than just battles. They were a fight for survival, for freedom, and for the future of Western civilization. Against all odds, the Greek city-states defied the might of Persia, proving that strategy, unity, and determination could overcome overwhelming power. These wars shaped the rise of Athens, the birth of democracy, and the course of history itself. What do you think was the most decisive moment? Let us know in the comments.